Okay, we've gotten to page 427. That's chapter 11 of Levene's book. And over here it says, see section E212 to create this. E212, right here. Well, that section does not explain how to create this plot. Also, the title of this diagram is misleading. It says tensile strength scatter diagram, when this in fact is for scatter diagrams. And once again, this section does not explain how to create it. So I had to figure it out specifically what steps are required to create this scatter diagram from the file which came on a CD with the book. The file is called Parachute XLS. I renamed the file. This is Parachute Chapter 11 XLS because I wanted to keep the original file intact. So this is the shape in which they supply the file. You cannot build that diagram from these data without transforming them. The key is the word scatter. Whenever we see the word scatter and we try to create a diagram, we always have to remember that's going to involve two variables and no more than that per diagram. So supplier 1 had to be placed on the left as another variable for these tensile strength measurements. So what had to be done was this. We're going to free up some space just to put the ones here for supplier 1. We're going to do the same for the other 3 suppliers. Okay. These column headings are of no use to us because we need to have a variable created from them. We're going to use this for the first scatter diagram. This is going away. We're going to do the same here for supplier number 2 and supplier number 3. Supplier number 4. These guys are going away. Absolutely unnecessary. Okay, the rest of this exercise will definitely follow the typical steps required by Excel to create a scatter diagram, and they are indeed mentioned in section E 2.12. However, you cannot really see that because you have to create manually the x-axis values here. You cannot see any of it in that text. So now that we have everything broken down into pairs, we go and create the scatter diagrams. Go to Insert, Scatter Plot, and with only markers, we're going to pick the scatter with only markers to recreate what the authors of the text created. That's why the choice is for the scatter with only markers. It was predetermined by the choice of the authors of the book. So we're doing this, and over here we obviously see the difference. This is not what this diagram shows. We have supplier 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we need to format the x-axis. For that, we're going to click, right-click on the x-axis and format it. Minimum will be 0. We're going to do this just to make it look like this. There's a 0 over here on the left, and we have some room left on the right. So from the choices that Excel gives us, we're going to pick 5 values for x just to have enough room on the right. Minimum is going to be 0. Maximum is going to be exactly 5. Major unit will be exactly 1. and we don't need any minor units. This is it. Now we have 0 where we want it to be because it's in the same place where the diagram shows in the text. We have 5, which we're not going to use. We might try to hide it, which is not really necessary. Series 1 is not Series 1. We want this to be Supplier 1. We're going to do exactly that. Right-click on the diagram itself, click on Select Data. We see that Series 1 is where this label comes from. We're going to edit it. Right here we can type any label we want. This is definitely Supplier 1. Supplier 1. And everything else remains the same. This is our X value. These are our Y values. There's the tensile strength from the first sample of the parachutes. And once again we have 5 parachutes woven on 2 looms. We don't know which ones were made on which looms, and we have 5 samples means we have 20 parachutes, apparently. These are the tensile measurements for each supplier. It could be safe to assume that each loom, each of the 2 looms utilized all fibers, the fibers from all 4 suppliers, but once again the book does not say any of that. These are the assumptions. We're just trying to make sure that we understand what we're looking at, and what we're looking at are only suppliers. This is one-way ANOVA for completely randomized design portion of Chapter 11. We're going to do the same now with the other suppliers. We selected these 2 columns. We have X here, Y here. That's what allows us to create a scatter plot. Okay, now this looks better. Supplier 1. This is not what we want here. We'll change it later. This has changed. We're going to add another supplier. We're going to do exactly the same operation here. Supplier 2. Supplier 2. X values will be supplier 2, right here. And Y, that's the tensile strength measurements. This is the scatter diagram for supplier 2, right here. Once again, this does follow the directions in section E 2.12. Okay. We're going to do the same for the other 2 suppliers. Add supplier 3. X will be number 3, right here. Y will be the tensile strength measurements. And here are the scatter markers, scatter plot markers. Last one will be supplier 4. X is obviously 4. And Y, that's the measurements. These could be separated, by the way, for clarity. We can do it next. At the end of this exercise, we'll do that. Okay. Now, we say OK, and then we're going to change the shape of the markers so that they look closer. They look more like the ones in the book. We click OK, and save. Now, just for clarity, let's pull these apart. That's for number 2. Do the same for 3 and 4. 3. Just to give us some more breathing room. And 4. Okay. We can actually highlight, oh, hang on. the diagram adjusts to the width of the cells. Okay, let's make all of these, I don't know, somewhat greenish. Okay. Now we see how they're separated. Okay. And we can put these into borders again for clarity. Now we know at a glance that these are grouped for a reason. Okay, next. And by the way, the title disappeared here, which is good. Okay, supplier 2. Let's make the markers look more like these parallelograms, the rhombi. Format data series. Marker fill will be solid. Let's give it a color. Sort of blue accent one, dark blue, something like this. Marker options, take a built-in one and make it exactly the same shape as the first one right here. Okay, now they're the same shape. And do the same for suppliers 2, 3 and 4. Format data series, marker fill, solid. Let's see, let's make it aqua accent 5. And marker options, take the built-in one, exactly the same shape. Okay, last one is supplier 4. We can go back to this dark blue color. Format legend entry. On the data series. Marker fill, solid, get this color. And for options, built-in options. Okay, save. Minor loss of fidelity is not going to worry us. Let's uncheck this and continue. Okay, now this looks much closer to this, just like this. We have the labels here, tensile strength and supplier. Okay, click near 0 and then right click on format axis. Let's see if we have any labeling options. Fill, line color, line style, shadow. Not that I see. Axis options. Vertical. Okay, that's good enough. Let's stop here.